Someone just disrespected you, and you did exactly what they wanted. You defended yourself. You explained. You justified. You lost. Every word you spoke gave them more power. Every explanation made you look weaker. Every defense proved their insult worked. Machiavelli watched this pattern destroy princes and peasants alike. He discovered something that changes everything about dealing with disrespect. In the next 23 minutes, you'll learn why responding to insults makes you vulnerable, how silence becomes your deadliest weapon, and the exact system Machiavelli used to turn every attack into strategic advantage. This isn't about being nice. This is about never being disrespected again. Right now, someone in your life feels comfortable insulting you. A coworker makes a cutting remark in a meeting. A friend disguises cruelty as honesty. A family member belittles your choices, and you do what good people do. You try to reason with them. You explain your perspective. You prove they're wrong. This is exactly what they want. Here's what they don't tell you. Every time you defend yourself, you validate their attack. Every time you explain, you surrender your power. Every time you engage, you play a game they designed you to lose. You're not weak. You're not oversensitive. You're being strategically exploited. And the people who disrespect you, they know exactly what they're doing. They've learned that attacking you produces a reaction. That reaction gives them control. That control becomes their weapon. Stop and think about this. Most people spend their entire lives in this trap, explaining themselves to people who don't deserve explanations, defending themselves to people who aren't looking for the truth, fighting battles that were rigged from the start. But there's another way. Machiavelli wasn't a philosopher in an ivory tower. He was a diplomat in Renaissance Italy, a world where one wrong word could end your career, where one misplaced reaction could cost you your life. Pay attention to this next part. He watched powerful men fall because they couldn't handle insults. He saw weak men rise because they mastered one simple principle: control your response, control the outcome. In The Prince, Machiavelli documented how leaders maintain power in hostile environments. But hidden in those pages is something more valuable: a complete system for handling disrespect without ever appearing weak. He discovered that insults are tests of your composure, tests of your confidence, tests of your control. Most people fail these tests immediately. You're about to learn how to pass them every single time. Number 1, the defense trap. The moment you defend yourself against an insult, you've already lost. Think about the last time someone insulted you. You felt that rush, that need to correct them, that urge to prove them wrong. So, you responded, you explained, you justified, and they smiled, because that's exactly what they wanted. Your reaction, your emotional energy, your power. But watch what happens when you don't. Here's what's happening underneath. When someone insults you, they're offering you a transaction. They give you disrespect. They want your emotional reaction in return. Most people accept this transaction immediately. They hand over their composure, their dignity, their power. But when you refuse to defend, you reject the entire exchange. The insult becomes a statement hanging in empty space. It has nowhere to land, no reaction to validate it, no defense to prove it worked. This creates something powerful: cognitive dissonance. The attacker's brain can't process why their weapon didn't work. They expected defense. They got nothing. This makes them look weak, not you. Machiavelli once said, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception." But here's the deeper truth. Sometimes the greatest deception is making your opponent think their attack was so insignificant that it didn't warrant a response. This is more damaging than any comeback you could deliver. How to use this? When someone insults you, pause, count to 3 in your head. Let the words sit there, then respond to something else entirely. Continue the original conversation, change the subject, or simply move on. If they push harder, asking, "Did you hear what I said?" respond with calm curiosity. "I heard you," then nothing more. No explanation, no justification, no defense. Watch what happens. They'll either escalate and look unhinged, or they'll backtrack and lose credibility. Either way, you remain composed. You maintain power. But here's what most people miss. Number 2, the courtesy weapon. Extreme politeness in the face of insults is psychological warfare. Your colleague publicly criticizes your work in a meeting. Call it sloppy. Questions your competence. Everyone expects confrontation, tension, drama. Instead, you smile. You thank them for their feedback. You speak with such genuine courtesy that it becomes uncomfortable to watch. I appreciate you taking the time to share that perspective. You say. Your tone is warm. Your body language is relaxed. There's not a hint of sarcasm, not a trace of anger. The room shifts. Your colleague expected a fight. They were grateful. This wasn't supposed to happen. Here's what they don't tell you about this technique. Insults are designed to lower your status. But status isn't determined by who speaks. It's determined by who remains unmoved, who stays in control. When you respond with excessive courtesy, you demonstrate something terrifying to your attacker. Their words have zero emotional impact on you. You're so far above their attack that you can afford to be gracious. This isn't a weakness. This is dominance disguised as kindness. Machiavelli understood that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But there's a third option he hinted at, being so controlled, so unshakable, that people fear their inability to affect you. When you meet insults with courtesy, you reveal something about yourself. You're not playing their game. You're playing a different game entirely. One where their attacks are irrelevant. Pay attention to this. How to use this. Practice this phrase. Thank you for sharing that. Say it with genuine warmth. No sarcasm, no edge, pure courtesy. When someone insults your work, respond with, "I appreciate you taking the time to notice." When someone attacks your choices, respond with, "That's an interesting perspective." The key is authenticity. If they sense mockery, you lose the advantage. But if your courtesy is real, if you genuinely don't care about their opinion enough to be offended by it, that's when it becomes a weapon. This reveals something critical. Number 3, the agreement paradox. Sometimes the most powerful response to an insult is agreement. Your friend says you're too cautious, that you never take risks, that you're playing life too safe. Everyone expects you to defend yourself, to list your accomplishments, to prove them wrong. Instead, you say, "You're absolutely right." Silence. Confusion. They weren't ready for this. I am cautious. You continue. I don't take unnecessary risks. I value security over chaos. But watch what happens next. The insult loses all its power because you've accepted it, owned it, transformed it from an attack into a choice. Here's the psychological truth. Insults only work when you resist them. The resistance creates the wound, not the words themselves. When someone calls you arrogant and you defend yourself, you prove you're insecure about arrogance. When someone calls you weak and you fight back, you prove they touched a nerve. But when you agree, when you accept their observation without shame, the weapon turns to dust in their hand. Stop and think about this. A man attends a family dinner. His uncle makes a comment. Still working that dead-end job, huh? The room tenses. Everyone waits for the defensive response. He smiles. Yep, still there. Still paying my bills. Still content. His uncle tries again. Don't you want more out of life? I have what I need, he says. Simple, calm. Unshakable. The uncle has nowhere to go. Every insult is met with acceptance. Every judgment is met with peace. The attack collapses, and the uncle looks petty, small, desperate. Machiavelli understood that everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. When you agree with an insult, you control the appearance. You decide what it means, not them. Secure people don't need to defend every criticism. They can acknowledge flaws without falling apart. They can accept observations without shame. This is power. How to use this? Practice saying you're right without defensiveness. When someone points out a flaw, real or perceived, agree with calm confidence. You're too quiet. I am. I prefer listening. You're too picky. Absolutely, I have standards. You're not a team player. Fair observation. I work best independently. The key is owning it without apology, without shame, without justification, just acceptance. This disarms the attacker completely, because they can't fight someone who won't fight back. Comment below. I control my reactions, but there's a technique that goes even further. Number 4, the mirror technique. Reflect the insult back without saying a word. Someone insults your intelligence, call you slow, questions your competence. You don't respond verbally. Instead, you simply look at them. A specific look, calm, assessing, almost pitying. 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5. Then you smile slightly, not mockingly, just knowingly, and return to what you were doing. That look says everything. I see what you're doing. I see why you're doing it, and I feel sorry for you. No words, just a mirror reflecting their insult back at them, with all its desperation exposed. Here's what changes everything. Insults are power plays. They're attempts to establish dominance, to climb social hierarchy, to feel superior. When you respond with pity instead of hurt, you flip the entire dynamic. You're not the victim. They are. You're not beneath them. They're beneath you. So far beneath you that their attacks inspire compassion rather than anger. A woman deals with a toxic co-worker who constantly undermines her in meetings, insults her ideas, questions her expertise. She never argues, never defends. She just perfects the look. Calm eyes, a small knowing smile, a brief pause, then back to work. After 2 weeks, the co-worker stops, not because she fought back, but because every insult was met with what looked like pity. And nothing damages an ego faster than being pitied by your target. Pay attention to this next part. Machiavelli once said, "Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions." The immediate need of an insulter is validation, recognition, a reaction. When you give them nothing but pity, you deny them what they need. You expose their game, and you do it without saying a single word. How to use this? Practice the look in a mirror. Calm eyes, relaxed face, a tiny smile, not mocking, just understanding. When someone insults you, hold eye contact. Let the look do the work, 3 to 5 seconds. Then break away and return to what you were doing. Never explain the look, never verbalize it. The ambiguity is what makes it powerful. This is psychological warfare at its finest. Silent, devastating, unstoppable. Comment below. I master composure. Now we reach the principle that ties everything together. Number 5. The status frame. How you respond to an insult determines your status, not the insult itself. Someone insults you. You have two choices: react emotionally and prove you're on their level, or respond strategically and prove you're above it. Status isn't given. It's demonstrated. Every interaction is a test. Every insult is an opportunity to show where you stand in the hierarchy. Here's what they don't tell you. Picture two scenarios. Scenario 1. Your boss insults your work. You immediately defend, explain, justify, list reasons, get emotional. What did you just prove? That their opinion matters, that their judgment affects you, that you need their approval. You demonstrated lower status, submitted to the hierarchy. Accept your place beneath them. Scenario 2. Same boss, same insult. You pause, you listen fully, you respond. I'll consider that feedback. Then you continue working. No defense, no emotion, no validation seeking. What did you just prove? That you're secure in your work, that their opinion is one data point among many, that you don't need their approval to know your worth. You demonstrated equal status, or higher. You showed confidence. You showed control. Stop and think about this. Status in any social hierarchy is determined by who reacts and who doesn't, who seeks approval and who doesn't, who gets emotional and who stays calm. When someone insults you, they're testing your status. They want to see if they can make you react, if they can make you defend, if they can make you break. Your response determines the outcome. React and your lower status. Stay calm and your higher status. It's that simple. That's brutal. That is effective. A young executive joins a company. The senior team constantly tests him. Insults disguised as jokes. Questions disguised as concern. Challenges disguised as mentorship. He never defends, never explains, never seeks approval. When they question his decisions, he says, "That's one perspective." When they insult his background, he says, "Different paths create different strengths." When they challenge his authority, he simply makes decisions and moves forward. Within 6 months, they stop testing. Why? Because he never failed the test. He never demonstrated lower status. He never gave them the reaction they were searching for. He didn't fight his way up the hierarchy. He simply refused to accept any placement except the top. This reveals something critical. Machiavelli once said, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." The status frame requires both. The fox's intelligence to recognize status tests, the lion's strength to remain unmoved by them. When you see an insult for what it is, a test of your position, you can respond strategically instead of emotionally. How to use this? Before responding to any insult, ask yourself, what would someone of high status do here? High status people don't defend. They don't explain. They don't seek approval. They simply exist in their power, unmoved by the opinions of those beneath them. When insulted, pause, breathe, remind yourself. This is a status test. Then respond from a place of confidence, not arrogance, not aggression, just calm certainty in your own worth. Watch how this changes everything. People stop insulting you, not because you fought back, but because you proved there's no point. You're unshakable. You're untouchable. You're exactly where you belong, and nothing terrifies insecure people more than someone who truly knows their worth. You came here being insulted, disrespected, attacked. You're leaving with 5 weapons. The defense trap, understanding that explanation is surrender. The courtesy weapon, knowing that kindness can be warfare. The agreement paradox, discovering that acceptance is power. The mirror technique, mastering the art of silent dominance. The status frame, recognizing that your response determines your rank. These aren't tactics for the weak. These are tools for those ready to never be disrespected again. Machiavelli once said, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." But here's the deeper truth. The first method for estimating your power is to look at how people treat you. If they insult you, it's not because you're weak. It's because you respond weakly. The moment you master these 5 principles, the moment you stop defending, stop explaining, stop reacting, is the moment everything changes. People don't respect those who fight back. They respect those who don't need to. You have a choice right now. Continue living as someone who gets insulted, who defends, who reacts, who stays trapped in other people's games, or become someone who transforms every attack into advantage, who uses silence as a weapon, who operates from a place so high that insults can't reach. Most people will watch this video and change nothing. They'll hear these principles and forget them by tomorrow. But you're not most people. You're here because you're done being disrespected, done being the target, done playing a game you never agreed to. The question is, will you actually use what you learned? If this changed how you see insults, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more Machiavellian psychology every week. Drop your biggest insight in the comments. What principle hit you hardest? Share this with someone who needs to master the art of dealing with disrespect. Someone who's tired of being the target. Someone ready to take their power back. Comment below your final commitment. I protect my energy. Remember this, responding to insults isn't communication, it's surrender. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. And mastery isn't about winning every battle. It's about making people afraid to start one. This isn't manipulation. This is survival. This is power. This is freedom. You now have the complete system. 5 principles that protect you from disrespect. 5 weapons that transform every insult into advantage. The next time someone tries to attack you, remember what you learned here. Remember Machiavelli. Remember that the most powerful response is the one they never see coming. Go use this, test it, master it, and never let anyone disrespect you again.